and share my screen. All right, welcome. Today we are starting session 5, which is about welcoming diversity. Welcoming diverse youth into our home requires long-term exploration, acceptance, and patience with ourselves and our youth. Welcome back. In session 4, we talked about effective and ineffective consequences, and we came up with a bank of consequences to use. Just like rewards, it's good to have a go-to for when it's time to use an effective consequence. We talked about implementation and consistency, and we talked about behavior contracts and how to use them. Today, we will learn that individual identity includes racial, ethnic, sexual, spiritual, and other components of identity. Examine your individual identity and consider the role it has in your self-concept and interaction with others. Learn about the impact of foster care placement on youth's ability to develop their unique individual identity, and determine and evaluate strategies to help youth develop their individual identity. Use a goal-setting tool to set short and long-term personal development goals. Off we go. Keep in mind, we're not together, but always be respectful of other participants' experiences and opinions and beliefs. Step out if you feel yourself getting upset, or hit the pause button and come back to the recording. Feel free to use a self-care technique or grab a staff member to help process. So if you have questions while you're going through this, always feel free to email me or call me. For this session's activities, you'll be provided with options to participate in discussion or to work independently. We're actually working independently. So this isn't so much an issue today. Please choose whichever option makes you feel more comfortable. There's no option, you're working independently. All right, activity 5B, knowing who you are. We're going to watch a short documentary. As you watch, complete the following. And this is activity 5B, page 59 of your worksheets. Write 3 things that stuck with you from the film. Write 2 ways you already support individual identity development in your youth. Write 1 new thing that you would like to do to support your youth's identity development. All right, and I'm going to play the video.
Junior high and high school were probably the most difficult, because junior high is when you're kind of forming your identity, and everybody in that age group is trying to, have an image or, project what they want other people to know and see about them. And when I first went into junior high, I was at a pretty diverse school. It was every race imaginable and highly populated with Hispanics. So in order to fit in, I immediately kind of clicked in in with like a Hispanic group, started acting like them, dressing like them, using the same kind of slang, like doing the makeup like the girls did. And then I would get made fun of at home for doing that. As I got older, it became more difficult because I was surrounded by nothing but Caucasian people. And so I had to try and fit in with them and not distinguish myself too much from the crowd. A lot of my friends tell me that I'm like whiter than them. A lot of my Caucasian friends, I guess because they don't speak with an accent, or I don't have a green card or whatever. Being in foster care doesn't help because you don't know your ancestry, you don't know what side of your family is what, and you have no foundation to refer back to. You don't know who you are in general, let alone your ethnicity. Like, okay, I knew that I was Mexican and whatever, I spoke Spanish, therefore I was Mexican. Like, I didn't even know I had Native American in me or Spanish. I didn't know that until the past few years. I was just kind of Mexican from Mexico. For a long time, I just rejected it. I didn't want to speak Spanish. I didn't want to, I don't want to go down to Mexico and think that, that could be me. I don't want to be noticed at all. The struggle has been more internal than anything in terms of identifying who I am. Luckily, I was blessed with a very good social worker who cared about me. I mean, she helped me a lot, and it's all kind of made me who I am and made me be able to accept who I am.
Race and ethnicity is about who you are, where you come from. It identifies how you fit in the world. So I think that when young people are in foster care, oftentimes they don't always have the opportunities to get to know who they are in the context of their family or community, because they've been removed or placed in another environment. Race is an uncomfortable subject for most to talk about. It brings up so many internal issues and uncomfortable issues, and racism and white privilege and internalized racism and all of those subjects that are just so painful to talk about, but really need to be talked about. The good things about being Indian. When I grew up, I heard that Indian people were drunk and lazy and were this and that, and I learned to deal with that. I learned to cope with that. But when I had children, I shielded them from that, and they didn't know what it was to be called a drunken Indian. And I remember when my son came home in the 3rd grade, and he was shocked, and he said, I was called a good for nothing Indian. And I can't think of anything about Indian that's bad. And on one hand, that was very good. I thought, he's proud of being Indian, that's very good. But on the other hand, I didn't prepare him. I didn't prepare him to deal with racism, to deal with the negative aspects that people project on us.
Coming up with a racial, cultural, personal, ethnic identity is extremely personal. Only you can decide who you are, where you're going, what you are. And number 2, with youth growing up, that's their full-time job. That's what they're doing. That's what they're supposed to be doing. That's what racism is someone else deciding who you are, or what your life, or what they can expect from you.
Ethnically, I identify myself as a Samoan, and that's because I like things, which is a Samoan accent, but people assume that I'm either married or something else other than that being my ethnicity. But culturally, I never really had developed any type of cultural identity except for being a foster care. Because being moved around into different foster homes since the age of 5, I've kind of adapted myself to that culture. And for me, experiencing the culture, I've just experienced betrayal and some bad things, but I've always known myself to be a foster kid, and I openly tell everyone that since I was in high school.
My son was in 6 foster homes. He was only gone 9 months. And he was in 6 places. He ended up in a group home, and it wasn't a good situation. It wasn't the nicest neighborhood or the nicest place. It was just like a staff of people. He wasn't with a family. Just after every visit, it just tears your heart out. It just really, it can make me cry right now. It just really tears your heart out. You know that my choices put him in a situation that I definitely did not want him in. Well, when I moved to Richmond in this foster home, there was a lot of different type of people, and they always tried to get me to be like them. And across the street, there was a basketball court. There were a lot of people there that was doing drugs and shooting knives, gang members there shooting each other all the time. Foster care actually showing me what I really wanted to be, what I wanted to be. What I didn't want to be. I don't know how to really teach him to be proud to be Black. They might not think that culture or race really matters to people, but then they get outside their own box and they see what it does. Some foster kids really don't want race to matter, and I have come to believe that there are a couple of reasons. As an adolescent youth, fitting in and being just like everybody else is number one for them, and being a foster child makes them different already.
I still got issues sometimes because I grew up in so many different places and so many different atmospheres and cultures. Been in Black homes, Asian homes, white homes, Hispanic homes, and they weren't all understanding of my own culture and my own identity. And sometimes I had to adapt to their standards in order to survive.
A person of color growing up in a white, pre-racist culture, there's some certain things you have to learn. For survival, you have to learn, you know? And the sad thing about foster kids and all foster cultures, we've taken away people's pasts. That's the whole setup, is you learn that from your culture. Native Americans, African Americans, 500 years of experience on how to deal with it. But you can put a kid in a white home and they're not able to reach back and find out, what do you do when someone calls me the N-word? What do I do when I feel really good about something, I lay it out and everybody's looking at me weird? You know, there's that connection. That's a big part to me of culture identity, is that connection. Where do you go? Where do you reach out? Who do you touch? And we cut that off. We need a way to nurture that, keep that coming back, and have mentors, relatives, somewhere that you can reach back and say, you know what, someone's done this before, help me out here.
I don't think you help somebody else explore themselves, but you're not exploring yourself, and you're not looking and seeing how you fit into it or how you react to it or how you feel about it. And you grow at all different stages of ethnic identity and in different places, you're feeling okay about who they are ethnically, racially, in terms of their neighborhood and their family. So if you have a good relationship with the youth, then it goes pretty smooth.
It begins with the social worker. You know what I'm saying? And it's up to that worker who to help create those connections. You know, to try to open the channel or get what she can from the biological parent assigned to the foster parent. It's our collaboration.
I was at, it's my life conference with the African American group. And I was saying, you know, especially with African American males, you have to have mentors, you have to have role models. I can't teach an African American male what they need to know to navigate their lives or the streets or whatever. But 3 African American adult males in the group were like, oh, you have to, oh, it's your job. And afterwards, they're so sweet. They came up to me and they're like, I want you to understand what we were saying. We were saying that you need to be responsible for the outcome, for that you need to make sure that youth understands you have high expectations for them and that your own ego is bound up with the outcomes for that youth, so that you're going to do everything within your power to make sure they're successful.
I would like the social workers to look at themselves and the foster families to look at themselves first and see where they stand and how they feel with ethnicity. It's something that they need to be comfortable with themselves before they can reach out to the foster child. It's something that they need to either be educated and challenge themselves to deal with first.
It's the fear of talking about race and ethnicity. And being able to hear and acknowledge the pain that I think we've all touched on is not easy. And I think people back away from it and they try to talk above it. And I think that it's a short term, but in the long term, it's the worst solution because it's going to leave the young people feeling that it's not worth talking about. So it's an invalidation of who they are. It's an invalidation of the struggles that they're going through.
I agree. We have the tendency when we got Michael, who's black, our first child that wasn't of our race, was to feel like it's better not to talk about it. Well, that was wrong right off the bat. Treat it like it's the elephant in the room. Well, we now have a young man who is an Eskimo and is proud of it, you know, and we talk about it, who we are and where we came from. To treat it like it's something not to talk about is to treat it like it's something wrong. And it certainly is not.
Social workers need to know that they have your lives in their hands.
The sooner that you figure out where you're from, what you stem from, what's in your genes, what's in your blood, then that way it just makes it easier to follow suit and learn more about yourself and to create your own identity.
Luckily, I was blessed with a really good social worker who cared about me. I mean, she helped me a lot, and so kind of made me who I am and made me be able to accept who I am.
You know, the social worker might be the only person that these children have that's stable in their lives, you know, and I just want the social workers to know how important it is for the kids' self-esteem for them to do some research and some work and some acceptance of themselves so that they can help these children out.
Understanding how important race and ethnicity is to you, but it's not an option, it's not ancillary, this is the work. And I know that. I know it's very true. And this is the work. And a youth who has a healthy racial and ethnic identity is going to be successful. And that's the work.
All right, so using that video, answer the questions on page 59, activity 5B, knowing who you are, write 3 things that stuck with you from the film. Write 2 ways you already support individual identity development in your youth, maybe some of your strengths as far as multicultural intelligence. Write one new thing that you would like to do to support your youth's identity development. So go ahead and fill that out. 3 things that I came up with while watching the documentary were racism is someone else deciding who you are based on their preconceived ideas, their stereotypes. Foster care is its own culture. It can take away their previous identity, especially as they're cycling through and with living with different families. It kind of takes that away. And you can't be afraid to talk about multicultural and diversity issues and to confront your own ideas about other races, other religions, other sexual identities. You just can't be afraid to talk about it. It needs to be talked about. All right, some components on identity. Your racial identity is how you view yourself in terms of your race. For example, Anashe is an African-American teenager living in New York City whose parents immigrated from South Africa before she was born. As a member of the Black community, she is aware of the struggles faced by minorities in America and is proud of their many important contributions to society. So that's how she feels as a proud member of her race. Your ethnic identity is how you view yourself in relation to those with whom you share a common ancestry or history. So Anashe understands that her parents and extended relatives lived through apartheid in South Africa. She admires her ancestors for enduring such hardship. That's her ethnic identity, how she views her ancestry and history. Your cultural identity is how you view yourself in relation to those with whom you share similar beliefs, values, and traditions. Living in a neighborhood of mostly African immigrants, Anashe participates in traditional holiday festivities, such as the Rites of the Rain Queen. While as a first-generation American, she also celebrates the 4th of July. So there's some crossover there. Some additional components of identity include your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, and you can try and think of some others. Right now, gender identity and sexual orientation are very important. It's important in a society now that we're calling people by the pronouns that they prefer. It's important that we're respectful of that and that we kind of educate ourselves on what it means and how to respectfully treat people who identify in those ways. So there's race, there's ethnicity, there's culture, etc. And if you can think of any others, think of some others. It's always important, though, to be very respectful, not to be condescending or rude, and keep that in mind always. All right, exploring individual identity. This is activity 5C. And this training is designed to be done together as a group, but we'll just go along. I'll read through and just think about some of these. What are some of the challenges that you or your youth have faced involving cultural diversity? Describe a situation in which you accidentally felt or expressed cultural insensitivity. What did you learn? How would you describe the culture of foster care and the impact it has on youth's identity development? And what can you do to nurture youth's connection to their biological family and culture? What are some ways that you can help youth discover or rediscover their home culture and further support their identity development? So think about these. We're going to use these ideas, some of the things that you come up with. Hopefully this sparks your brain for our next activity, where we'll pick a scenario and write about it a little bit. Working with a diverse population. An awareness of one's own cultural values and beliefs, and a recognition of how they can influence attitudes and behaviors. An understanding of the cultural values and beliefs of youth and how these can influence youth's attitudes and behaviors. And remember, cultural diversity implies far more than just racial or ethnic diversity. So when we're talking about ethnicity, culture, race, we're talking about shared experiences, shared food, shared values, shared holidays, shared religious beliefs, symbols, shared assumptions, and a shared history. Responding to diversity in your home. Be respectful of other cultures and their traditions. Allow and encourage youth choice. Allow voluntary participation in your family's cultural and ethnic activities, especially if they differ from that of your youth. And that's voluntary. Again, if they decide that they do not want to explore your culture, that's up to them. It is not voluntary, however, whether or not you decide to help them explore theirs. That is mandatory. Okay. Provide access to culturally appropriate activities and locations for your youth. Ideas to explore. Ask your youth to share their life book with you, as well as share yours with them. Hopefully, when you have a foster child, they have a life book to share with you. This is kind of like a scrapbook. It may be a box of items that they're carrying around with them. But their life book is a history, and it may be a little scattered. And hopefully this is something that you're doing in your home with your foster kids to help them keep track of their memories and their history. Connect youth with cultural or ethnic activities, events, and mentors. Visit places such as museums, stores, etc., where your youth can learn more about people of their culture and or ethnicity. Las Vegas has so many museums, so many opportunities for cultural exploration. It's one of our favorite things, especially in the spring. Our family, we love to go to the museums. Starting as soon as the weather warms up just a little bit, we kind of start over on Boulder Highway with the Clark County Museum out there and make the rounds through the museums. And it's a lot of fun. The Natural History Museum is super fun downtown. There are just so many, and we still haven't been to the Atomic Museum, and that's one that we hope to do this year. So there's a lot to explore in Las Vegas as far as that goes. Make your home culturally sensitive by providing multicultural art, toys, games, media, etc. And if you think of any others, write them down. These are things we should be doing to help our youth grow. All right. Activity 5C, 5D, sorry. Activity 5D, there are a few cultural diversity vignettes. And we will choose one in the video. You can choose another one if you choose to do so, to fill out the worksheet that will be due, which is page 60, activity 5D, cultural vignettes. All right, so there are 4, and we will kind of read through them and consider these questions. What cultural or identity differences may be driving the problem? What is the ultimate goal to solve the problem? And then brainstorm some possible solutions, potential barriers to those solutions, and whether or not the solutions can be reasonably done. Okay, So we will be doing this individually, but I'll do one as an example. We will do scenario number 4, and I'll read that out loud. Maria is a 15-year-old from Mexico residing in a therapeutic foster home. No, oh, we have somebody to admit. Hello. Who's on iPhone 13? Hi, can you hear me? Who's on iPhone 13? Hi, who's on iPhone 13? Yeah, hi, take yourself off mute. Who's on iPhone 13? All right, moving on. We're on the cultural diversity vignettes. This goes with activity 5D. We're reading from cultural diversity vignette number 4. And we're talking about Maria, a 15-year-old from Mexico residing in a therapeutic foster home. Her parents, the Bakers, attend a Baptist church. Initially, Maria had no issues going to church with them. She had been placed with the Baker family several years before and had a positive relationship with them. Upon her return, she refused to go to church, stating that she could not be forced to practice their religion. That is true, she cannot. Maria is bilingual, but her biological mother, who she visits on a regular basis, only speaks Spanish. Okay, so I'm going to assume that the problem is Maria doesn't want to go to church, and maybe the Bakers have a problem with that. They don't understand the change. And she's a little bit older than she was the first time she lived with them. So she's got a little bit more autonomy. She's standing her ground, which is fine. That's what teenagers are supposed to do. So what is the ultimate goal to solve the problem? In my opinion, it's the Bakers need to find the church that Maria wants to go to. If she wants to go to a Spanish speaking church, if she wants to, and you know, whatever denomination that is, they need to find what that is for her, or if she doesn't want to go at all. So there's the problem there. This actually is something that happens every now and then with families who attend church regularly and then their foster child doesn't want to go. So you can't make them. So that's not a solution to the problem. If they are religiously curious, it is up to foster parents to find what will work for that child and provide that avenue of worship for them. So possible solutions on the grid. This is page 60. Looks like this. Possible solutions are finding a congregation for Maria. If there are any barriers, it might be beliefs of the Baker family, like, oh, they're only Baptist and every other church is wrong. That's got to get over that. Got to get over that. So maybe overcoming previously held beliefs. And is it a reasonable or unreasonable solution? I think it's reasonable. All right, so make sure to fill out page 60 for credit. And you can choose any vignette you like. Just make sure that it's clear which vignette you're using. Okay. And if you'd like to talk any further about the vignettes or you have any questions about it, of course, if the problem comes up in real life, the case managers are available. There's always somebody to talk to as far as that goes. So don't be afraid to reach out when it comes to church. And if it becomes a thing where, oh, we need supervision while we go to church or this or that, just make it clear what your needs are so that you can get the help that you need. All right, continuing to develop cultural sensitivity, goal setting. Why use a formal goal setting page? And this is actually page 61. There's a sheet for mapping out goals. So one reason we would use this is to strengthen what you are already good at and to recognize where you can improve. So it's really about finding your strengths, the things that you're good at, and then looking at the things you need to improve and work on. All right, identify a positively stated specific goal and steps to reach that goal. And check in on a regular basis to track your progress and make adjustments as needed. All right, using the goal setting tool provided on page 61 of your foster parent manual, write down 2 goals. A personal goal for you to learn more about cultural, ethnic, and individual identity, and a goal to achieve with your youth. And this is something you can use your imagination for. If it's something that you've experienced before, you can do that. So let's just talk it out for a minute and get this one filled out for credit. Okay. So here's an example. My goal, to learn more about hairstyles for kids of different ethnicities. My strength, genuine curiosity, a desire to be open to kids' preferences, love, compassion for differences. Activities to build strengths, ask questions of people with expertise, ask kids directly what they like and prefer. And resources, fellow church members, maybe a hairstylist, local hair shops, and stores that sell hair products. Where can I improve? Ask more questions and assume less. Have my kids take the lead with their hairstyle preferences. Be a student, not a teacher. Activities to help me improve. Make these discussions part of my routine with all foster kids in care. Go to the shops with my foster kids, listen more, talk less. Resources, cosmetology, schools, shops, stores, and my kids. This is something that comes up a lot with Black kids who end up in a home with people who have straight hair and they have no idea what to do with Black hair. So it is important to learn what to do and to, get the products that are necessary, get the tools that are necessary for hair care, all of that stuff, so the kids feel confident and pretty and well-groomed. It really is important. So this is something that really does happen. But do think about your strengths. Think about your own strengths and fill it into this sheet. And think of the things that maybe you need to build on a little bit more. So if that curiosity is missing, if that willingness is missing, really dig deep into yourself and decide, what can I do to better help kids of different races, ethnicities, and cultures. All right, what is a life book? All right, a life book is documentation or a narrative of a child's life from birth to the present. So, you know, how we did it in my family was a scrapbook. And there may have been some clippings, there may have been some letters or writing or journal entries that went on in it, but that's what a life book is. It can serve as a vehicle for a child to explore their past history, with them providing with a concrete and visual reminder of who they are in the context of the world around them. Youth may re-experience some trauma by disclosing their past and or by simply working on their life book. It's always important to set up a safe and nurturing environment and frequently check in with your youth. So, you know, be aware of that in the life book, there may be pictures, there may be reminders of their abusers, of their families, which can be complicated and require a little bit of care. Okay. I don't have page 62 in my printout. Let me just make sure really quick. So there won't really be some home practice, but this won't be required. It's not in the packet. As a foster parent, be prepared to help work on a life book every now and then with a kid. If something important happens in your care, if there's events, if there's fun things that happen, important things, milestones, get those things documented. If your child doesn't have a life book, maybe start one with them. It can really help a kid solidify their identity and help them feel better about themselves, increase self-esteem. So certainly consider that as something to do as part of your foster parenting. All right, we're going to wrap it up early today. Today we learned more about the impact of foster care placement on youth's identity development, how awareness of our own identity can improve our work with youth, how to respond to diversity in the home, developing culturally sensitive goals, and the importance of life books. All right, so as always, if you have questions, you can call me, you can email me, anything you need to do. For today, for credit for session 5, you will need page 59, which is activity 5B, knowing who you are. It's a review of the documentary that we watched. Please fill out all of the questions. Activity 5C, exploring individual identity. Please write a couple of sentences about exploring individual identity on activity 5C. It looks like this. Just maybe write something right here with your name and date, of course. Activity 5D, pick a cultural diversity vignette and fill out page 60, which is a little grid. About the possible solutions for the vignettes. And then goal setting. Explore your strengths and some things that you can improve on. That is page 61. You maybe don't have to do the whole thing of the goal setting, but definitely write down strengths and activities to help you improve what you could do to help a child in care. All right, I'll send out the email with the link to this recording. Feel free to call, email with your questions, and we are done for today. All right, thank you so much.